Honorable speakers, participants, respected faculty, and students, a very good afternoon. I must say, the different speeches by various distinguished speakers in the earlier section was truly enriching and a great learning experience to all of us. Keeping the same spirit and enthusiasm, we would like to begin session 2. And the theme for the session is Best Practices in CSR.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us a truly remarkable person and distinguished personality who have contributed a lot in the field of corporate social responsibility with his hard work and ideology. It's a great pleasure to have Dr. Ajay Gupta, who is in charge of publication and research surveys at ICSSR. May I request Dr. Shulagna Sarkar to present our guest with a bouquet.
His experience in the field of CSR is truly contributing and very encouraging to every one of us.
Moving on, we have with us a leader and a scholar who has contributed a lot to the society with his great work. We are honored to have Dr. Harish Srivastava, who is the head of planning and CSR at Ramki Foundation, to be amongst us. May I request Dr. Poonam Singh to present our guest a bouquet.
Dr. Harish Srivastava ji is a CSR professional with significant experience in industry, consulting and research, and possesses sound understanding and sustainability practices, new CSR rules and assurance standards. A self-starter, adept in handling CSR value chain, that is baseline analysis, planning, execution, impact assessment, reporting and communication. He is passionate about implementing sustainable CSR interventions which have intrinsic business values. Thank you, sir. We are privileged to have you. Now I would like to introduce with you our next speaker. He is Mr. Mohammad Raza ji, Acting State Head, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. He is Joint Director and Deputy State Head for Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. He is associated with CSR in Senior Citizen Healthcare at HelpAge India.
May I request Siddharth to give our guest a bouquet. Now, I would like to hand over the discussion to Dr. Ajay Gupta and carry forward the session. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. And on behalf of Indian Council of Social Science Research and IP, I welcome you all. Well, I was here I'm here rather since last 2 days, and I think it was just like a classroom kind of a thing for me. And I was just discussing with Professor Murthy that we at ICSSR, you see, we distribute public money to various organizations for organizing conferences, seminars, and then for research projects. So I think with this kind of experience, now we would be able to do our job more judiciously. Because previously, I mean, we have got so many things, but now I think I have learned a lot as far as CSR is concerned. So I thank you. I thank all of you, all the panelists and all the participants, and in particular to IP, that they made this experience so rich. So without wasting time, I think we are looking forward for the presentations from our distinguished panelists. So first now on the list is Dr. Harish Srivastava. So I request him to please make the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning all. Firstly, I'm extremely thankful for having me as part of the panel here. So it's always a pleasure to be at IPE, so which has been something that I've been cherishing since my student days. So every time when I come here, it's with new energy and new enthusiasm. Definitely on corporate social responsibility, IP is one of the premier institutes that have been working constantly. So before the evolution of CSR bill, and to an extent where they have been part of this entire journey in terms of training and in terms of research and in terms of spearheading this particular activism, so far as creating a kind of consciousness in the corporate minds is concerned. Now here in this particular session, so when Poonam ma'am asked me that you would be speaking on CSR reporting. And again, from Ramki Foundation point of view, the first thing which I said, no, I'll say no to this topic, because somewhere I thought corporate social responsibility reporting, from a foundation point of view, I don't know whether that will be so appealing for the audiences, or probably people may not find it so relevant, because CSR reporting, so far as the company is concerned, itself hasn't picked up so well. So that's where I've thought like whether I would be able to justify the entire topic or the theme which is given to me. But somewhere I thought probably this is the place where I can share my experiences in terms of dealing with CSR reporting or the sustainability reporting, which I have somewhere taken to some level in my organization. Well, CSR reporting, you all must have been familiar with the CSR Act, and the CSR Act talks about CSR reporting. But that's not the reporting perhaps is the focus of this particular slides which I'll be running through, whereas that reporting is more in terms of the activity. So it is more in terms of how your activities have been and how the impact has been created. But the reporting which I would be talking more at a comprehensive level, more at the organizational level, and what is the benefit or the advantages for such kind of a reporting for an organization. Good to have friends from CRI and HelpAge here, definitely. So and also with a lot of companies and students. So indeed an honor to be here today. Yes, so my presentation, So I'll just talk about a little about my organization. So we are a not-for-profit partner of Ramki Group. Ramki Group is into infrastructure and environmental engineering, pharmaceuticals and real estate development. So the company has set up in 1994 and it has been listed, and Ramki Enviro engineers have been doing tremendously well so far as the waste management is concerned. We are in the operations of municipal waste management, industrial waste management, biomedical waste management and electronic waste management. Now, Ramki Foundation is a CSR wing of Ramki Group, and this has been established in the year of 2006. And Ramki Foundation shares similar kind of goals which has been advocated by Millennium Development Goals, and we are the organization which has also been accredited and empaneled by NABERT and also by Tata Institute of Social Sciences as a knowledge partner. And we have been also a signatory of United Nations Global Compact, and we have been also doing in a very limited way in terms of coming up with our annual report in accordance with the GRI Global Reporting Initiative standards of NGOSS, that is NGO supplement. So as an organization, we are working in 4 major areas, which is natural resource management, women empowerment, health and education. And in those 4 major areas, the focus is more in terms of livelihood development models. The focus is more in terms of working on those kind of micro activities which will create livelihoods for the beneficiaries. Of course, as a CSR partner, the focus, I'm not saying they are the only target group, but the focus is employees and also the communities around our work sites. But our focus doesn't stop there. So we have been also working on the issues with a larger interest, and we have been also working on projects in a collaborative way on PPP mode. So we are working on integrated watershed management projects in Maharashtra, in Madhya Pradesh and in West Bengal, and we are also implementing projects in collaboration with the states AIDS control societies in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and also in Maharashtra and in UP, in Delhi and in Chhattisgarh. So as an organization, Foundation has started more like a CSR partner, but definitely embraced a larger mandate in terms of working close to the national goals, working close to the developmental priorities of the country. And that is where we have also evolved ourselves as an implementation agency. Well, the implementation definitely comes from our experience of working on certain models, which we have started in our CSR implementation process. So majority of our models today, they work on the livelihood emphasis, and we have also having certain initiatives in the women empowerment area, especially in terms of working with producer organizations and converting the women groups into mutually aided cooperative societies and connecting them with the input linkages and market linkages in the area of textile, tailoring and embroidery. Apart from all this, from the organization point of view, now I would like to say that what is this sustainability report or the CSR reporting that we are talking about? So what is it, and why we need to do it, So who has to do it in the organization, and how often it has to be done, and whether it can be clubbed with any other initiative in the company, so whether it can be taken as part of the CSR, or whether it has to be taken as a separate thing. So is there any guidelines that the organizations have to follow, or is there a regulatory requirement for adopting such kind of a framework? Well, from a regulatory point of view, having a CSR reporting focusing on these particular lines, it is not mandatory. So you only have to do CSR reporting so far as the Companies Act is concerned, which is more of an activity report, but not to have so broader dimensions of reporting. So when you are talking about your organization, which is absolutely not required from a mandatory point of view. But well, voluntary disclosure is something which will add to the positive image of the organization, and the voluntary disclosure is the in thing in terms of having establishing a legitimacy in the society, and also in terms of going towards new standards of implementation, or going towards new standards of practice. Now, the sustainability reporting which I was talking about, it is basically talks about people, planet and profit. So well, from a company point of view, people, planet and profit is absolutely the thing that people would definitely agree. But from a corporate foundation point of view, profit. So profit is something that NGOs or NPOs would like to detach themselves. Rather, we don't want to talk about profit. So we would like to talk about the economic wealth that we're going to create to the communities. So that's where my point of profit that comes in, whereas the profit has not been addressed to a great level so far as the GRI NGO sector supplement is concerned. For the NGO sector, whether the profit has been taken with a different connotation. So it has been used more in terms of the ethical aspects of fundraising, or ethical aspects of resource allocation, or the ethical aspects of using funds. And most importantly, so instead in the 3 PPP model, the another P has been replaced with process. So it is not the profit that the NGO sector would be talking about, because that would be the first question that people will say, that as an NGO, so how do you do sustainability report? Because sustainability report talks about issues of profit. So as an NGO or an NPO or a corporate foundation, you are not supposed to be generating profit or accumulating surplus. So you are more in the other dimensions of distribution. So people would definitely disassociate with that particular concept. So that's where the idea of processes that pitch in. And with the idea of process, what comes in is the programmatic effectiveness. So how effective are you in terms of your programmatic implementation? So the program effectiveness, which is not there in the other GRI index, so which is not there for the companies. So companies need not have to talk about their program effectiveness, whereas the not-for-profit organizations have to talk about their program effectiveness in terms of how do they respond to the stakeholders, and what is the methodology that they have in terms of responding to these stakeholders, and how do they treat one particular issue as a material issue for them. Now, why to report and communicate? Definitely yes. So far as the NGO sector is concerned, even in the Indian corporate sector, people used to somewhere disassociate with the entire notion of reporting and communication. So they say that our words, you don't have to speak in words, rather you have to prove in your action. So that is what is the approach. So people say that our actions speak for ourselves, but definitely yes, so your actions do speak for what you are doing. But definitely there is also a space for communication, and there is also space for dissemination of information in terms of certain best practices of implementation that has been taken up by these companies, by these foundations. Now, that is where reporting and communication is a very, very key thing. So in case, even if you do a small research of Indian NGOs or the international NGOs who are doing their reports, so you find reports which are like, definitely yes, so they're all very good, very comprehensive. But again, these reports have a different dimension. So they have certain storytelling, they have a case study based approach, or they have certain ways that it creates an awareness or an advocacy towards the organization is doing. Well, nevertheless, majority of the reports do not have the comparability in their approach, do not have, I'm not talking about, again, not generalizing my point of view, but I'm talking in general. So not many organizations, not many Indian corporate foundations, they don't have this particular kind of a reporting. So even if you see the foundations are the companies which have spent enormous budgets on CSR in the last year. So if you see the foundation, if you see the report of Reliance Foundation, so you find it very, very different. So it is not in terms of the GRI index, because GRI index is not mandatory. So it is not in terms of certain global conventions, because you don't have to follow global conventions so far as foundation's report is concerned or an NGO report is concerned. But well, so if you see the reports of certain international NGOs like Greenpeace and Amnesty International, Rockefeller Foundation, definitely yes. So they follow the GRI reporting methodology. Of course, I'm not saying, I'm not coming here as an advocate or not talking about GRI reporting, but whereas you can have a standalone report, so you only have to take the principles which is there in the GRI reporting, because all said and done, GRI, it is not a corporate body or it is not a legislative body. It is again a constellation of interested parties. So it is also an organization where you have diverse stakeholders, academicians, companies, corporate foundations, and so on and so forth. So that's where the GRI reporting has been more and more and very widely accepted. Okay, so now from a NGO point of view, so why is it that important so far as the reporting and communication is concerned? So I was talking more from the point of view that NGOs are demanding transparency from the corporate partners. So we talked that the companies have been exploiting the natural resources, or companies have been creating a bad impact on the society in terms of pollution, or they're not giving jobs to the local communities, etc., so on and so forth. That's the activism that NGOs has. So in the same spirit, so if the NGOs also follow the similar kind of a system of reporting that the companies are following, definitely people would say that it is too costly, I don't have budgets, I cannot have all those things in my setup because I am not an organization which is creating an environmental impact. So the environmental footprint, we are not talking only in terms of the companies which are releasing gases into the air, or which are dealing with the hazardous chemical. And environment footprint is something which is concerned to everybody today. So even for a not-for-profit organization can talk about environmental footprint, because talking about environmental footprint and being accountable towards the environmental footprint that this particular organization is creating definitely enhance the value so far as the public expectations are concerned. And most importantly, for an NGO, it would create, in terms of creating a competitive driver. Yes, so from coming from a corporate foundation point of view, or from an NGO point of view, so talking about creating competitive advantage and donor satisfaction is something which would be like, these words probably doesn't suit, but definitely yes. So the competitive advantage is something which is very, very essential, because NGOs are today, irrespective of their good work, irrespective of their linkages with the communities, irrespective of their advocacy and activism, they do have shortage of funds. They do suffer with in terms of having good funding support for taking their activities forward. Very recently, I've also heard from few people from a corporate, which is again a public sector company, so which is part of the Navratnas. So they were saying that we have a policy of not working with NGOs. So I said, why you don't work with NGOs? So they say, look, at a corporate level, our CSR policy doesn't allow us to work with the NGOs, because somewhere we put an end. So this is the idea that some people are talking about, even government is talking about. So government is also saying that we won't work with the NGOs. Why this particular notions are coming? So probably there are few NGOs which have done these kind of things earlier, so you are unnecessarily generalizing it. And this is where having these kind of reporting would definitely enhance the image of an organization, that this organization is somewhere bringing the results and outcomes on par with our understanding. So I'm not saying that we have to crave for funds. Definitely no. I'm not saying here that you are doing everything for funds. No, not at all. So the whole idea of having GRI reporting or having CSR reporting, it is more to establish, and it is more to have such kind of a legitimacy and to have donor satisfaction and stakeholder satisfaction at large. And also talking about certain parameters which are otherwise not addressed in the NGO sector. One particular thing is like governance. So people doesn't talk about the issues of governance and who are your board of trustees and how often they meet and what are the issues that they talk about. So this is one particular area which is absolutely not focused. But whereas the companies, you have governance and the commitments of management and the management development approach, which becomes very, very crucial factor when you are projecting this thing in your annual general body meeting. So why can't NGOs have this particular kind of an approach? This approach is not too costly. It is not a rocket science. It's a very simple thing that we have to put things into perspective and start practicing it. And that's what we have done. And as an organization, which are again, I come to Ramki Foundation's experience probably a few minutes later. So before that, I just would like to talk about the GRI guidelines. So which is like the GRI Generation 4, which is now in practice. So these guidelines have evolved over a period of time. So as a not-for-profit organization, as an NGO, which was started by which was started in 90s, Global Reporting Initiative, today has come to an extent that have won the confidence of corporates all over the world. Now, why people say that the GRI is the only thing so far as your integrated reporting is concerned or a comprehensive reporting is concerned? It is because the stakeholder dialogue in Global Reporting Initiative is very vibrant. So they take views, they invite a lot of inputs from different concerned parties, and that's where the GRI guidelines and indicators are also evolved over a period of time. So in GRI reports, the most important thing so far as the reporting is concerned, so the most important thing so far as the reporting is concerned, so you need to structure your report. So in terms of your strategy, in terms of operations, in terms of organizational profile, and the report parameters that the company is going to take up in this year, governance, commitments, engagement, management approach towards those performance indicators, and how management treats this particular things as material to their existence in the given sustainability context. So here the reporting guidelines have been prescribed, but there is no mandatory that you only have to go by GRI. So you have different parameters, so the companies can go for GRI, OECD, United Nations Global Compact, or they themselves can evolve a standalone perspective. But ultimately, your perspective has to meet the larger dimension of sustainability, which talks about people, planet, process, programmatic effectiveness, are the profit. So when it comes to the companies. Now, the most fundamental thing so far as the GRI reporting is concerned is the stakeholder inclusiveness. The reporting has to include the relevant stakeholders for the company and what is the kind of engagement that this particular company has with their stakeholders, and what is the methodology of such an engagement, and how frequent is this engagement, and the scale of engagement. Now, along with the stakeholder engagement, how do they define their sustainability context? Because they are operating in an environment, in a market, and how do they define that this particular